starting a little bit early because I understand that Pipkin Pippa is having connection issues, which means that I can steal her time slot without actually losing subscribers. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. Hope you had an awful day, so I may entertain you. And thank you for the £2 bipedal species. I actually missed seeing you in the chat. See, I do have a long-term memory. I do remember that you used to come here and post. And also, hello everyone else. Coldest Beer, Mike Savage, Katis Fineto, and everyone else. I want to touch a little bit on Reddit today, because Reddit is absolutely fascinating. It's, I think, one of the worst social medias on the internet. I don't know if TikTok or Twitch is worst. I would say that TikTok is worse due to the harm that it does to society, but and the harm that it does is not because it allows people to post garbage there. Because it allows people to post garbage there unquestioned. Like, if you're a right-winger and you go to TikTok and you start making fun of people that have, like, the dumbest takes imaginable, the most fringe, extremist, lunatic takes, you get banned, right? So that the people who say the dumb stuff are protected. And unfortunately, the people that say the dumb stuff, they get viral, and then your future children may watch it, right? So this is why it's bad. I'm not like, oh my god, it's bad because people can express themselves. No, you know. But people expressing themselves without challenge, that is bad. Twitch is similar, and of course Reddit is very close. Now, the thing with Reddit, it's kind of like Twitch. They want to save money, so they're using the Nazi system. The way the Nazis run their camps is how Reddit runs its operations. So the Nazis found out that having prisoners police themselves is a lot more cost-effective than having more guards. So they had these people called capos, and the capos were in the interesting situation of being both the abusers and the abused. They were the abusers because they could abuse the other prisoners. They had more privileges and they had more power, but at the same time, they were also prisoners themselves, right? And this is what the Reddit moderator is. It's a capo. Basically, the Reddit admins do not want to censor their own website, so they ask the subredditors to censor their own website, right? So, like, if you operate any subreddit there, it's kind of like Discord. You have to censor your people. You gotta censor your people, because otherwise they don't let you do it, right? And yeah, they do it for free, of course. It's interesting because it shows why socialism doesn't work, unironically. Like, look what happens when you give a little bit of power, which isn't even power to begin with, but it's like the ability to censor other people online. Look what happens when you give a little bit of that to a Reddit moderator that's a socialist. They will not give away that power unless you pry it from their cold dead hands. Like, there have been so many cases where a socialist, someone champion equality and equity, was asked to step down. They refused. They will rather ban everyone from that subreddit rather than step down. And it's normal, it's the human experience. I imagine the capos are slightly less mistreated by the guards. Okay, so the capos were actually hardened criminals. Like you had two types of people in the extermination camps. You had the ideologically inclined people, the ones that were committed crimes against ideology, and then you have like the hardcore criminals as well. But the hardened criminals were the ones that were placed in charge, and they had to get all the other people in the camp to do what the establishment wanted them to do. So yeah, they had privileges and they were treated a lot better. Kind of like the Jannies on Reddit, right? Like, the Jannies have privileges and they're treated a lot better. But at the end of the day, they're also being censored and suppressed by the admins. Thank you, Spock. I will take all of it. Two Reddit mods are part of the mod team for over 5,000 top subreddits. I did not know that. It's disgusting, really. It is what it is, right? So what ends up happening if you don't follow? Reddit announced a new business decision in order to charge third-party appies, which a lot of the moderators didn't like. I find it interesting that this is where they drew the line. I mean, Reddit does so much grotesque stuff, but apparently this was a little bit too far. This was too much. Charging the appies, the third party appies money for using the service. This is where the moderators had to draw the line, and it's like, okay, fine. So they decided to do a 2-day strikeout where all the subreddits are being privated, and they're not going to make it public anymore, right, in a sign of protest. So the Reddit CEO, with its infinite wisdom, comes out, and he says that, oh, well, it's only 2 days, so it's not going to affect us. But the moderators, when they heard that, they were like, oh, is that how you want to play it? Okay, well, then it's indefinite. So now what Reddit is doing is it going to the largest subreddit, it's taking away the Johnny's privileges, and giving it to other Johnnies so that they can open the subreddit. This is literally what character AI did. It just goes to show how little power you have. Like, they reminded people that it's actually their prison, right? Like when you're in a prison, you don't own anything, right? You don't own your cell, you don't own your bed. You think you do. You think you do own the orange thing on your back, the orange clothing on your back. In reality, you don't own anything. Everything belongs to the prison. And Reddit just reminded people, hey, this is our prison. You may think you're a Johnny, you may think you're a capo, but at the end of the day, you're in our camp. And you do what we tell you, bitch. And that's what they did. It's interesting, because like, if you think about it, this subreddits are created by these Johnnies, right? So, well, some of them at least. But imagine this. You go on the internet and you put a lot of effort in order to build a community. Like, I'm trying to build my community for the video game that I'm launching, and I have a Twitter account, and I'm telling you, it's hard. It's very hard to build it. Like in 1 month, I only got 500 followers. And I have to post constantly, I have to talk with people, I have to figure out what to say, right? So you're doing this. And and by the way, I grew a little bit faster than expected because I do have like another community. But still, like 500 people in 1 month. Now imagine how much you need to work in order to make a community of 1 million people. It's a lot of work. So all these people put this work and then it's taken away from them. I can understand why they're seething. So yes, the Johnnies are mad. But like, take into account, like, this is not winning, right? It's like, oh my god, this Johnny got demodded. They're going to select a Reddit, a Reddit approved mod. Like, the admins are going to select someone that they want. And it's still the same stuff. You still get a Johnny. Yeah, it is what it is. I remember the Empire of the Ottoman Janissaries. Yeah, the Janissaries were the slave army, but I would say that's a little bit different. Because at least the Janissaries were treated with respect among the Ottoman citizens. Yeah, it is what it is. Can we see our heart emojis going up on the screen? Let me see. No, I cannot. I mean, Reddit is like a polite version on 4chan. At the end of the day, in 2023, 4chan is just slightly edgier than Reddit. I guess on 4chan you can still say the N-word, right? Like, tradition dies hard. That's part of the conservative value of 4chan. You can say the N-word. But other than that, compared to what 4chan used to be and compared to what it did, right now I would say that 4chan is just a little bit edgier than Reddit. Not a lot, but just a little bit. Anyway, hello Midwest Finest. How's it going? So that's the scandal with Reddit. There's a scandal with Fox News, which also took place. Apparently, there were 20 seconds of a banner on the screen saying that Biden is a wannabe dictator. And that upset the Democrats a lot. Like, that really pissed them off. Apparently, the person responsible for doing that at Fox News was fired. He worked there for a couple of decades, but that didn't matter. Didn't even allow him to stay like 2 more weeks, which is customary. Like, after you get fired, apparently you can still stay 2 more weeks in order to get everything else in order, like talk with your colleagues, No, they didn't allow him to do that. And there were Democrats saying, like, what do you mean Biden is a dictator? Because of that, Fox News should be banned. Like, we should make an example out of Fox News. Like, they should have their broadcasting license taken away. The government should step in and force people not to watch Fox News if they're in a military base. Like, this is unacceptable. We're talking about this from the same party which said that Trump is a fascist for more than 4 years. Fox News fell off rather quickly after Tucker. The thing with Fox News, and this is what most people don't understand, they think it's a right-wing television network. There is a difference between it, because it kind of is, but there is a major difference between Fox News and CNN. CNN, and anyone that watches this can tell you, CNN is Democrat operatives, right? Like they're how should I even put it? Like they do this because they believe in it, right? Like they believe in the cause, basically. So CNN like legitimately believes in the stuff they're saying. They're legitimately fighting for the stuff that they're doing. Fox News, if you look at it, it's run by liberals. Like the people who own Fox News are leftists. But they sell a product to right-wingers. It's kind of like, okay, so I'm making a video game and I'm not into feet at all. Like, I do not like feet, right? Like, it's not a thing. But I do understand that the customer does. You know, like, the foot fetishists are real. So I give them something because I know that's what they want. But I don't believe in it. Like, it's not something that I would want to put in. It's not something that I enjoy. And obviously, it's going to be a different product than if someone who genuinely likes feet would make that. Because they would understand it better than I. Like, I can try to emulate it. I can try to see what people would like and put that in. But I will never be as good as someone who genuinely likes feet. Because they understand. And if it was under attack, like let's say my publisher comes in and says, no, V, you're not going to put feet. Why? Because such and such. I would be like, okay, you know, I will not fight over it. But if I were like really believing in feet and I genuinely cared, I would be like, no, Bob, feet go in. Shut up. Hello, V. Hope your day went well. Making sausage. I saw a manga in the making. It was beautiful. Thank you for being a member, Osmora. I appreciate it. Murdoch used to employ people that believe in free markets. Well, back in Australia. Yeah, no, but like this is what it's like with Fox News, right? Like CNN legitimately believes in their shit. And if CNN was forced to, let's say, do something that they didn't believe in, it's like get rid of your, I don't know, diversity officer, CNN. They'll be like, no, we're not getting rid of our diversity officer. We love our diversity officer. We would never. Meanwhile, if they tell Fox News, hey, get rid of this guy who calls Biden a dictator, all right, well, he's out. Right? Because they just provide the service. They do not believe in the stuff that they're saying. It's like, well, what do right-wingers believe? Well, I mean, give them some of that. This is probably why they got rid of Tucker Carlson. From what I understand, it may have been a condition of the Dominion lawsuit, which is interesting because Tucker never actually posted any misinformation about Dominion. He actually told other people to quiet down. But that's probably why they got rid of him. Because they thought it's like, oh, well, they're going to watch something else. They're going to watch Hannity or whatever. It is what it is. CNN plays it safe. MSNBC is just batshit crazy. Really? Is that your opinion? I would say it's the opposite. But to be honest, I do not watch them that often. I usually get news snippets from them. I would say that they're both batshit insane. I mean, who has The View? The View is probably one of the most outlandish ones out there. The one with... I remember like there was this black lady from Baltimore and she was running for office and she was talking about the crime and, you know, like the community in Baltimore. And there was this lady from The View, the Jewish lady, the one that sits next to Whoopi Goldberg. And she was like literally telling this black lady from Baltimore, she was telling her, it's like, well, let me actually tell you about the black community. I will tell you, you do not speak for the black community. Like I was looking at that and I was like, is this for real? I mean, it wasn't even about race, but like you have a person that literally grew up in that place, right? Like a person that is within, you know, the culture that she is criticizing, and she just doesn't like the fact that there's so much crime in her city. And then you have like this other person from CNN, you know, dressed in a suit, obviously incredibly wealthy, probably never been to Baltimore in her entire life, and she's telling this woman, like, actually, let me tell you, lady, you do not speak for black people. You know, unfortunately, she's probably right. I do think that CNN speaks for black people. I withdraw my criticism. I genuinely think that this is the case. Like, black people in America are so subverted that they do believe, like, CNN is the church. Like, if CNN says it, then it must be true. Whoopi said that Hitler wasn't racist against the Jews. I remember that, but she apologized. But like, take into account that they can say shit like this and still have a job. This is interesting, right? Because if anyone else, if Tucker Carlson would have said that, he would have been fired way earlier. But because it's Whoopi Goldberg, and she said something like Hitler wasn't racist against the Jews, then that's fine. And it's so fucking uneducated, because I understand what she meant, right? Like, what she meant is that racism in America is based on color, right? So like a black person can't hide the fact that they're black. Like you get to see it on the street. So in a racist society, you're going to get racism just by people looking at you. But because Jewishness is an ethnicity and a religion in Nazi Germany, they didn't really know which person is a Jew, right? But like, because Whoopi is uneducated, I mean, it's a left-leaning person and you're asking them to know about history, like what do you expect? They don't know that they put a star on their fucking arm in order for them to discriminate. They probably watched Attack on Titan, because this is how I understand things happen, right? Like you take things from the media, right? Like it's not the other way around. They watched Attack on Titan. They watched anime and it made them racist. Now I understand. Kotaku made an article saying Attack on Titan makes people fascist, right? So Hitler probably watched Attack on Titan and he saw the thing with the star there and was like, now I know. I know what must be done. And it got Whoopi Goldberg into trouble. See, when you understand the news and you actually apply what they tell you and you believe it unironically, life becomes so much more clearer. Was it on their chest? I think it was on their arm. They didn't talk about this in school, you know, because it's interesting. Like, World War II was just like a couple of pages in the history books for us. It was like, well, it was a little bit more than a couple of pages, but like most of it was about the battles and stuff. Like, we didn't really study the Nazi ideology. Like, oh yeah, they were racist, and oh yes, you know, like they tried to systemically genocide people, but we didn't really sit on it as much. To be honest, the horrors of communism wasn't something that we sat on. But I understand in other places, like in the United Kingdom, like they have entire months just talking about the Nazis. Not what they believed or anything like that, you know, like the economy, the planned economy, the abolition of rights or anything like, no, it's just like, it's interesting, isn't it? Apparently in the United States as well, like they start their history with World War One. Like, what? And things happened before that. You know, no wonder like Americans are so easily subverted by history if they don't know shit. Like, and they don't know shit because it's not taught in schools. Like, for example, I was shocked when I heard it's like, okay, so like Americans do not study history like before the colonial era, and apparently not. It's like, oh, so like you start with the American Revolution? Yes. But like, okay, but like, do you not study about the Egyptians, the Sumerians, no. Well, then it's no wonder when you say that the white people are evil because they had slaves, and like no one is like, well, hold on a little bit, like everyone had slavery, right? Like, because they don't know. It's shocking. You won't believe me, but I don't know the black women who listen to those cackling crows actually believe. And yes, black folk watch CNN religiously. No matter how much you disbelieve, I can verify it's true. No, I know American Outlier. I know. Because otherwise, like, see how I know? If it wouldn't work, they would change it. Right? Like, this is what a lot of people ask me, because they know that I talk a lot about the news, and they ask me, it's like, why is the news so stupid? Like, why is it structured like this? Why do they make these arguments? And it's like, because it works. That's why. Like, if it didn't work, they would change it. But if something isn't broke, why fix it? So, literally, yeah, like, they watch The View. Like, someone watches The View. If no one watched The View, it would go out of a business. The subject is called world history. So, the person that told me about it lied to me. Is this what you say, Sarah? It's like, I've been lied to? The US arrogance towards history had come to bite us. Probably. I don't know. See, now I got conflicting information. Like, someone says that you guys actually do study history. It's called world history. I mean, that's good. Like, I remember in 5th grade, we had Romanian history, and in 6th grade, we had world history, and we studied from antiquity, medieval time period, classical era, colonial era. Eskimos sold slaves? I think like Eskimos... See, I don't know much about Eskimos, but I'm willing to bet that they were quite warlike. This is what I think. Because when you're in a place with very few resources, like where you don't really have anything, the very few things that you have is probably coveted by a lot of people. And not to mention, it's like, who's going to help you, right? Like, they don't have like a police force in the Arctic. So I may be wrong, but like, this is what my presumptions are based on the history that I know. It's probably like a very difficult place to be. Right now, obviously, it doesn't apply, but I'm talking about in the past, right? So, like, how Eskimos were like during the colonial era. I think they were very warlike. That's my assumption. I'm willing to change my mind if anyone knows. But I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case. Because, again, look at the Vikings. Like, why were the Vikings so aggressive? It's because they had very cold and harsh winters. And it was very difficult to farm. So they had to do raiding and pillaging. It's like, you need to survive, the survival instinct kicks in. Yes, I had to take an end of course exam for US world and art history to graduate history. Oh, hold on a little bit, graduate history, fuck's sakes. I'm talking about schools. Right? I'm not talking about university level. I mean, sure, if you want to be a history major, you're going to study it. But I'm saying, like, the public education system. No, I'm not being edgy. I'm being, like, genuine. They were, apparently. Oh, okay. Well, it makes sense. Like the opposite would be, like if you want a peaceful society, is a society that has plenty. Right? Like, if you have a society that has plenty, then chances are they turn on each other. Like, they turn inside. They start bickering, basically. Like, they start talking about issues that are non-issues, first world problems, and they start fighting over those. But if you have, like, a society that doesn't have plenty, they're very united. They make a common front. And they will go to war against other cultures or other tribes. At least that's what history teaches us. Most Americans I meet say they learn more about history from playing Civilization or Crusader Kings than at school. I know they do have world history in the curriculum, but it's not a priority. Oh, in public schools you graduate history classes? Man, your education system is bizarre. I mean, look, I learned a lot of things. Okay, so from Civilization, I don't think you can learn much. Like, from Civilization, what do you learn? You learn a couple of monuments, right? Like the Stonehenge and other shit. Like, there's a little bit of text with those. But no, if you wanted to learn history, Crusader Kings, I guess, would teach you geography and how the places were called back in the day. But Total War did an excellent job at teaching history back when they actually gave a shit. Now I wouldn't trust it. I would think it's just woke propaganda. But back in the day, I remember playing Rome Total War, and they actually had a team of historians that would write the lore for the units and the buildings. And if you actually spend time reading all of that, yeah, you'd learn really interesting things about history. But now I guess you need to watch historical channels on YouTube if you want to learn anything. I learned from Civ 5 that the Mongolians built a Stonehenge in the sea. It varies by state, but in Florida we start with state, natural history, geography, world history, civics, American history, American government, and economics. Well, I guess that's why Florida is so based then. But the British, from what I understand, like I had people that are subscribers of mine from the UK, and they say that they spend like half a year just talking about the Holocaust. And I'm like, just how much is there to talk about? Like, you understand it happened, it's bad, and never again, okay? But like, imagine if you did that for all the civilizations, you know? It's like the Mongols and their genocides, and then you have to stay there and like talk about it. I mean, even with communism, like we do not spend like 6 months on the Holodomor. It's okay, you know, it is what it is. I mean, I wonder like how much they spend also on saying British Empire bad, or talking about how the British Empire abolished slavery. Like, do they spend any time on that? Or I genuinely don't know. Like, literally, I do not know. Can't make the Scots too proud. Gotta keep us divided. So no World War II. Yeah, well, I'm really curious, like 500 years from now, if people are still going to be talking about this, or will they have like their own horrors to talk about? The Crucible was required reading, but we were never taught about communism. And that makes a lot of sense. 12 years ago when we learned real history in Europe. Now I'm not sure. Okay, let's talk about Call of Duty. So we got the worst publication in history for YouTubers. The Wall Street Journal. I remember when they picked on PewDiePie for making jokes about Nazis, since we're on the subject. And one of the journalists, which was picking on PewDiePie for being so dangerous and harmful, for making jokes about Nazis, had a picture of South Park and also made jokes about Jews. This is why people dislike the media. This is literally it, right? Just that alone. It's like they attack someone's livelihood. Many YouTubers have suffered because of the apocalypse, which the Rolling Stone brought upon the platform. And it was brought due to a moral panic, right? Oh my god, well, this person is making jokes about Nazis. And one of their journalists was doing literally the same shit. Like, the journalist, literally, because there were 3 people that wrote the article, right? And literally one of them was doing exactly that. Just like doing the exact same thing that he was moral panicking about someone else. Almost a decade ago, yes. Video game culture helped to give rise to the anti-woke movement that continues to plague us today. Why do you consider to plague us? Right? Like why do you think wokeness is a good thing? Why do you like rainbow capitalism so much? Why do you like the idea that a corporation that makes missiles is advocating for LGBT rights? Do the people from the LGBT even want Raytheon missile defense to advocate on their behalf? Why do you think that loans should be given to, free interest loans should be given to companies based on how woke they are? Well, why do you think like billions of dollars or millions or hundreds of millions should go to diversity officers that do literally nothing, rather than that money be invested into making a better product for people? Like this is my question. Like, why do you think that wokeness needs to be protected? What do you like about it? What is it that, right? Like, what did wokeness do to improve the lives of average Americans? Like, if anything, you know, like the racist scandal is that Black Lives Matter didn't handle the funds very well. And that's on mainstream news, something that you couldn't talk back in the day because all of these companies that were very woke would ban you for speaking out. Thank you, Bob Cohen, for the $50. American Outlier, the public education system is bullshit. My school was so bad I dropped out and got GED and did better self-teaching myself to get ahead in life of what I am today. I wouldn't say that it's the problem with the public American education system is the problem with education systems everywhere. Even in my country. The modern education system is designed to train factory workers. It's not designed to train free thinkers. Like this is interesting, right? Like, a lot of people believe that without like public schooling, people would be imbeciles And the only way to learn is to go to a public school, or at least the system we have now. The reality is, there's many ways to learn. You can be self-taught, but okay, most people do not have the discipline to teach themselves. But apprenticeship is actually one of the best ways to learn a trade, and it has been done throughout human history. It's a lot older, more ancient, and better than what we have today, right? So apprenticeship would mean you go to work, like even at a hospital, let's say, right? Like imagine this, you go to work with the doctor, and at first you just clean his tools, do his mop up the operating room, and sterilize the instruments, and maybe write some of his papers and stuff like that. Like I'm talking about papers as in the patient's medicines, and like he will tell you what to write. But you're basically learning the trade, right? And after a couple of years, then he starts allowing you to do certain easy procedures, like how to take a blood sample, how to use the centrifuge, and then like he tells you what to read, and right, like that's the apprenticeship system. I think it's a lot better than what we have now. Yeah, clean his tools. The tools need cleaning. You sterilize them, of course. But do you think that you use dirty tools? No. Do you think the doctor cleaned his own tools? Of course not. He's got more important stuff to do. But yeah, no, like that's my point. The ESG will run out of money before 2026. Unless something like digital euro. Well, from what I heard, it's like the whole ESG thing is a plan to crash the economy in order to put the digital euro. Because the whole idea is that this is not profitable, right? So like, what is an ESG? It's a risk assessment score, basically. Like when investors give money to someone, they want to know if the money can be paid back. So usually they have like different methods of assessing the risk. ESG is one of them, but it's definitely not going to assess the risk for your company. If anything, the higher the ESG, the more likely it is you piss off the customers. And we saw that with Bud Light and Target, and right. So the way companies work is like, okay, so they go for the investor money, they go for the ESG, they get the bucks, but then they have to repay it, right? So if they can't repay it, they get another loan and another loan. But eventually, the investors can say, okay, well, we want our money back. We're not going to loan you anymore. And when that happens, they go bankrupt. And BlackRock seizes the assets. What can you do? And then you can be like, oh, well, you can actually use the digital dollar. Just got paid. Instead of paying the like, I super chat candles will do. Well, thank you, Midwest Finance. But don't you have like smartphones? You can use smartphones. Yeah, there used to be a time in Romania where like not having a candle in your house was actually a panic. We used to have like load sheddings, our version of it. And it was, if you didn't have a candle in your house, it was like, okay, but what do you do if the power runs out? I'm like, oh, good question. You didn't have smartphones, right? And if it was like really, really dark and the light went out, like it was a problem. Anyway. As with so many other stories, the inciting controversy is ridiculously minor. Nickmercs, a streamer who came up playing games, including Activision's Call of Duty, apparently said that you should leave the children alone. The real drama erupted a week after Nickmercs' bundle went on sale. Apparently, Activision took away the ability of people to purchase it. And by the next day, Activision had removed all the products from their stores, and the Call of Duty Twitter account seemed to confirm that the decision was connected to Colhef's commented on the Glendale franchise. The game also reiterated their commitment to Pride Month. Activision did not immediately respond to the Rolling Stones for comment. Well, yeah, because there's nothing you can respond. Like, they're ashamed of their decision, right? Like, you have a streamer, which is saying, like, they should leave little children alone. Okay, like there is nothing you can say against this. There's nothing. But Activision says, well, actually, we stand with Pride, so we're going to punish you. Activision could have ignored this. I looked at the replies. Like, no one cared. Right? Like, no one was against Nickmercs. No one was... Right? So instead of Activision just allowing this to go away, they're like, no, we're going to show you that... We at corporation have power over you, and we're going to exercise that power because we can. So the same right-wingers who have lately... Well, see, this is like something that the Rolling Stone does. The same right-wing. How do you know they're the same? How do you know they're the same? The right-wingers... Because you know why I think they're not the same? I do not believe that someone who is in a rural area and is like 45 years old and chooses not to buy Bud Light is also a Call of Duty player. I don't think they're the same. It's a different demographic. There may be overlaps. I'm not saying that it's completely separate. And it's also interesting, right? Like in the case of Target, there was an LGBT activist which sent bomb threats to Target. Did you know that? The media makes sure that people don't know that and says like, oh, Target is receiving bomb threats in regards to the LGBT merch. Yeah, it's true, but why don't you mention the context? Why don't you provide the who is doing this, right? And notice it's just right-wingers. Left-leaning people are also boycotting. And it's also interesting when left-leaning people boycott, like, the Wizard game. The media ignores the fact that it's happening, downplays it. And by the way, this enrages people. This is why, like, people are so upset. Like, this is probably very fresh into their minds as well. Like, the Wizard game, believe it or not, did have a huge impact. And I know it doesn't sound like it, but it did. So anyway, another big streamer with a custom COD bundle, Tim the Dat Man, requested that it's taken down, and it was taken down. Okay, so on first glance, the wave of indignation over a company nominal endorsement of Pride is exactly like the dozen or so that preceded it. If there's an obvious difference, is that a violent video game glorifying war has stretched the reactionary's already strained definition of wokeness to its absolute breaking point. This is not about wokeness, okay? This is about the fact that it's bad optics. Like, when you say, leave the kids alone, and a company goes like, you know, actually, we think you're a piece of shit, and we stand with Pride, right? I'm paraphrasing. But when a company does that, it's bad optics. And secondly, it's also the fact that a corporation should not get involved in the personal politics of a person in its private time, right? Like, he didn't go at an event organized by Activision Blizzard and take the time on stage in order to express his personal politics, which, by the way, shouldn't be wrong either. I mean, how many actors don't do that with the Oscars? Right. And by the way, if you would talk about, oh my god, well, you know, climate change is really bad, guys. In 5 years, we're all going to die unless we do something. Unless we pay like 200% extra taxes to Joe Biden, we're going to suffer an extinction event. If you would have said that, Activision Blizzard wouldn't give a fuck, right? So it's not even about like making sure that people aren't political. Yeah, but, well, to be honest, Call of Duty does glorify war. But it's fiction. Who fucking cares? Honestly, who fucking cares? Oh my god, it glorifies war. But, you know, like, the Rolling Stone, a journalistic publication, encourages war. What is their stance on the war in Iraq? What is their stance on the war in Ukraine? Like, let's look at what is their stance with the war in Afghanistan. I may be wrong, you know, I'm genuinely not sure. But, like, we need to check. You know, because apparently, it's not okay to glorify war. Perfect. Let's see how they feel about actual war. You know, the war in Syria, how did they feel? You know, like, what did they think about the gas attacks in Syria? Did they think that America should intervene or not? My point is that it's not their place to talk about this shit. You know, it's not their place to moralize. Like, I understand, you know, like, if you think you shouldn't moralize, you shouldn't glorify war, that's fine. But, like, really? An American outlet? I would be shocked. I would be Pikachu face if I see one American outlet that's anti-war nowadays. Like, all of them are pro-war. And by the way, I'm not saying necessarily it's a bad thing. Like, I, for example, do support Ukraine, and I'm glad that the Americans are helping out. But I do not want the people that are helping out to say, well, actually, we don't like Call of Duty because it glorifies war. Like, shut the fuck up. Remember when that company had that study to learn how to teach kids to whine for their products better? I don't actually. This freaking out a popular shoot-em-up entertainment has somehow been bridged by liberal attitudes of acceptance. What do you mean acceptance? Like, what acceptance? The guy goes on his personal Twitter account and has a political take. And he gets punished for it. What acceptance? What is the fucking acceptance? What does the Rolling Stone know about acceptance? I would love to learn from that. Like, a corporation decides to spy on people in their private time, right? So, like, Activision Blizzard was spying, and I'm curious, like, on how many other people they're spying. So they were spying on the people that have to play their game, and they would be like, oh my god, well, you had this political take. Well, we're not allowing it. It's too right-wing for us. We're going to punish you, make you an example. And then you talk about acceptance. Are you loco? Are you insane? Like, do you not know what the word mean? Anyway, apparently, this opens the floodgates to crusade the decade ago. Gamergate, 2014 and 2015, male gamers wage relentless misogynistic harassment of women in the industry. I can prove to you that this is full of shit. Okay? Just one question. Why did they do it? Why? Because they were misogynistic. But why? See, like, if you can't find an explanation for why something happened, maybe you're full of shit. First of all, it wasn't male gamers. There were a lot of women, including, like, because this is the thing, right? Like, they only believe in institutions. Like, if you give them, like, a random no-name on Twitter, they won't accept it. So you need to give someone... Christina Halfsummers had her Wikipedia page vandalized by the progressives. Christina Halfsummers had bomb threats when she was talking about Gamergate and she was actually exposing what's going on. There were Liana Kersner, video game journalist, right? She was on the side of Gamergate. You're not going to mention them, of course. I mean, I could go on and on and on. Like, there was an entire hashtag called #NotYourShield, which was filled with women and minorities and, right? I love the fact that they stopped playing the race card because it used to be white male gamers. Now it's just male gamers. But, I guess if you repeat the lie long enough, you know, like, who remembers what happened in 2014 and 2015, right? It's just like gamers were misogynistic for no reason, you know, like why? Because women were playing video games. Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but like when a man does what a woman does, that's usually preamble for romance. Like, if I find a woman that's into the hobbies that I am, well, that's a reason that you want to talk more, you know? Like what? This doesn't even make any sense, right? Like, so imagine you like football, and you find someone else that likes football, and you start arguing, like, no, you're not allowed to like football. Only I get what. Do people even do that? Is that like normal human behavior? Like, who comes up with this stuff? This is a writer is either having cognitive dissonance or trying to divert, justify, cope with companies' optics that perceives Call of Duty linking arms to with pedo. I genuinely don't know what the fuck they're doing. I have no clue. Like, again, all Activision had to do was to shut the fuck up. Like, the original tweet wasn't viral. It didn't generate much buzz. Wasn't that many complaints about it. It was just one guy's take. You know, he saw a video and he said, well, they should leave the kids alone. And that's it. And basically he believes, a very fascist belief, by the way, that children should be left up to be educated by their parents. I know, it's over the pale. If I found a woman who likes football, I found a lesbian. That's not true. I actually do know women that like football. My grandmother used to like football, believe it or not. Like, my grandmother, we used to watch soccer. But this freaking got the popular shit about blah blah blah, Gamergate. So male misogynists vent their fury at what they saw as progressive and feminist values in games. Did they? Are you saying that there wasn't a progressive, a push to install progressive values in games? Are you fucking kidding me? Like, that was the whole point. Like, you had Marxist ideologues who considered themselves to be Marxists. That ended up, you know, like, saying that, oh, we're criticizing video games. We just want video games to be better. The moment that the video games got their diversity officers and they have, you know, hired ideologues and shit into their companies, all of the criticism went away magically. And things that they would be criticized before, even though they would do it after they hired the diversity officers, like, none of that would be mentioned again. The recent Call of Duty blowback, of course, follows the script of the past year's increasingly anti-LGBTQ rhetoric. However, it echoes the old Gamergate narrative, a pastime regarded as dudish and heteronormative. Why is the Rolling Stone writing left-leaning propaganda? Oh, look, the quartering is in the Rolling Stone. But, like, why is the Rolling Stone writing as if it's the Atlantic? This is what I don't understand. Is the Rolling Stone going far left? Pastime regarded as dudish and heteronormative. Like, do you want to deny the fact that Call of Duty is a pastime which is dudish and heteronormative? Well, actually, I wouldn't say it's heteronormative because there's probably gay people playing Call of Duty. But, like, if I go on Call of Duty now, if I log on Call of Duty now, and I pick, like, a random person in the game, do you think they're going to be a man or a woman? Unironically, like, if we bet $500, it's just, like, pick a random person. And if you guess correctly their gender, you get $500. Would you be able to get it? I don't understand. It's like, how can you say that Call of Duty is not dudish and heteronormative? It literally is. But it's not dudish and heteronormative because it's enforced. Like, no one is stopping a woman from installing the game and playing it. It's just that they seem to prefer Overwatch over this game. And there are different demographics which play games. Just like there's demographics that read Rolling Stones. I don't think, like, my grandmother, God rest her soul, would have been interested in reading the Rolling Stones. That means that you're actively excluding against old women from Romania? No, it's just like, it's a product doesn't have to be for everybody. It has specific tastes and demographics. Like, the Rolling Stone isn't for 10-year-olds. Does that mean that the Rolling Stone hates children? Like, literally, this is their logic, right? If a product isn't played by everybody, it means that the people who don't play it because the people making the product hate them. This is like, no, unironic, this is left-leaning ideology. If you believe that like 5-year-olds do not read Rolling Stone, is because Rolling Stone hates 5-year-olds. That's their logic. That's it. Like, that's the extent of it. And by the way, like, they're upset that someone doesn't want to buy a video game. Like, literally, this is what it's about. Like, people don't want to buy a video game. They're like, oh my god, well, these people, they're like Gamergate. Gamergate would contact their advertisers. That's what Gamergate would do, which is pretty much what the Rolling Stones did with YouTube, right? Like, the Rolling Stone literally acted like Gamergate when they did the Apocalypse. The anti-LGBTQ activists, Call of Duty, Activision Blizzard is not an LGBTQ activist company, you morons. They're not. Okay? Like, gay people would not want Activision Blizzard, which is a company mired in sexual assault scandals, to represent them. It is fascinating that you believe that Activision Blizzard is an LGBTQ activist corporation. Right? So when people are against Activision Blizzard, they're not against the LGBTQ community. They're against the corporation, Activision Blizzard. Holy fucking shit. Who writes this garbage? Rolling Stone. How much did you drop your standards for hiring people? Like, do you give jobs like candy now? See, I can tell you that Rolling Stone isn't using ChatGPT to write its articles, because ChatGPT can actually make a coherent argument. This is just like utter shit. This is garbage level. It's beyond garbage. It's like, okay, so people are protesting Activision Blizzard. They're against the LGBTQ activists. This is a fight they can't win. Well, no, they can't win. No, like, I do agree. You cannot win against a company that sells broken games and people still buy them, right? Like, I agree. But they have a right to mention the fact that they're displeased by this. I mean, I remember when Call of Duty used to have, like, a flag which looked like the Kyrgyzstani flag. And the left was in uproar. Where was the articles then? Why didn't the Rolling Stone write, like, 5 articles disgruntled about, like, oh, well, the left should understand they can't win, because blah, blah, blah. Humans continue to defy and surpass traditional norms and categories. Yeah, but, like, wokeness has become traditional norm at this point, right? Like, you can't still LARP as if wokeness is a progressive ideology. It's the establishment now. Like, even the Rolling Stones are defending it. Like, the very fact that you're defending wokeness shows that wokeness has become the orthodoxy. And you're right, humans continue to defy and surpass traditional norms. This is why you have middle schoolers saying that their pronouns are USA. Like, this is now, like, the progressive way of thinking is to be anti-woke. You can't, right? Like, am I wrong? I don't think I'm wrong. I think I'm correct. Companies seeking to maximize profits to cater to as many of them as possible. How is Bud Light maximizing its profits? Like, you're the Rolling Stone. You should actually understand this. How is Bud Light maximizing its profits by alienating 90% of its... Well, actually, it's like 40% of its consumer base, right? How is that maximizing your profits? How is Target maximizing their profits? Call of Duty is not maximizing their profit. No one is buying Call of Duty because of this, right? Like, they're not maximizing or lowering it by doing this shit. It's just like pissing people off. They're losing goodwill, basically. That's what they're doing. It would be interesting, though, to see if DLC sales are affected. Because while people can't help themselves, and they will still buy the game, because they... Like, I can understand why people buy these games, by the way. It's because they want to play with the friends. That's why. Like, they have a group of friends that they play Call of Duty with. Like, these are, like, the absolute normies of the normies. And they have a group of friends and they play, and if they don't buy the game, they feel left out. Okay, so I do understand this, but I'm also curious to see how many people still buy DLC. Because buying DLC isn't required in order to still play with your friends. By the way, I had a guy, I invited him on the stream, but I don't think he showed up. We were talking about diversity. And the whole idea is that there was this person. I'll read you what they said. I don't believe it even happened, right? Like the way that they're claiming is like one of those things like I'll take what never happened for $500. But they're saying just recently I told my African American father, right? Like, who talks like this? Who talks like this? Like, seriously. This is why I don't believe, right? They're a VTuber, so you don't know how they look like in real life. But did you ever hear? So it's like me saying recently, I told my Caucasian father. It's just bizarre. It's maybe it's true, but like it's such a bizarre way of speaking, is it? Like I don't hear people on the street talk like this. Like I told my African American father. Well, did you also tell your Hindi father? But what about like your Caucasian dad? Did you tell him? Like, most people say, I told my dad, But anyway, right, so... that there's so he told his African-American father that there's a black Spider-Man. And I showed him some scenes from Into the Spider-Verse, and he had such a big smile the whole time watching. Miles became his favorite right there. Representation matters so much, you don't speak for us. Yeah, so his dad probably started crying while watching a children's cartoon, right? It was like so emotionally moved. It was like his mother when they watched the Titanic together. But my response is that representation matters because you see yourself separate from other races. You don't get unified by the human component. You do not care about class or shared experiences or nationality. Instead, like a Nazi, you can only empathize with pigmentation. But what's more interesting is while you cannot connect with Spider-Man because he is white, you expect the entire world to connect with Miles. Be glad representation doesn't matter, otherwise Caucasians would only watch movies with Caucasians and everything else would be unprofitable to make. Right? It makes sense. Like if representation literally mattered, then that's what would have happened, wouldn't it? Like you would only have like like as a white person, if I don't see I would have never watched Chinese movies with Kung Fu. I would never watch the Jackie Chan movie. I'd be like, well, representation matters, and these people, they do not look like me. I cannot understand. Right? But what's interesting is that I got into a fight with an Italian, and the Italian was like, no, V, you're wrong. Representation does matter. Like, white people want to see themselves in white movies. I'm like, do they though? Like, do they really? I mean, okay, so first of all, like, the South Korean movie, Squid Games. Why was it so popular? Because I am on the opinion that people just want to see good stories. Like, I don't mind if you have a movie where everyone is black and it takes place in Africa. If it's a great story, I would watch it. But that's the problem. Like, Hollywood can't make good stories anymore, to the point where I genuinely do not like movies with white people. I watch South Korean films now. Unironically, like I would like to watch something that's made in America, but they're not making anything. Like, Bollywood is going to overtake the US at this point, not because Bollywood is going to become better, but it's just Hollywood is becoming so bad that it's dominated by everything else. So my point is, like, if you literally believe it's like, oh, well, like, white people want to watch only movies with white people. Like, if that was the case, you wouldn't have to say it. It would be self-explanatory. It's like men are attracted to women. You can't like, you don't need to say that. You don't need to come out and make an example out of that. You don't need to be like, oh, well, it's natural for men to be attracted to women, because it's self-obvious. I saw another tweet where some guy was like, if they made the black Dragon Ball Z character, they would have been even more excited than Goku. But why though? Like, okay, so if you were to make a black Dragon Ball Z character, well, like Mr. Popo, it depends how you make it. Like, if there was like a black Dragon Ball Z character that just pops up, like some martial artist just happens to appear and he's black. Maybe, I don't know, but like that would be one thing. But if they make Goku black or Vegeta black, right? Because this is how like Hollywood would make it. Like, let's say you make Dragon Ball Super, and all of a sudden, for no fucking reason, Gohan is black. Like, they don't explain it, they don't articulate. He just happens to be black. They would lose a lot of customers. Like, people would just tune out, right? But if you have like Gohan making a friend, and that friend is black, then that's fine. But I would also say that it's probably due to the fact that there has been like trillions of dollars spent on trying to indoctrinate an ideology into people, that if you see a character of the same race on the TV screen as you have to like them. That's marketing, basically, right? Like, but what is marketing? Like marketing for Coca-Cola is that you must like the Coca-Cola drink, right? That is marketing, and they pay money for that in order to happen. And they bombard people with propaganda that whenever you see a Coca-Cola, you should feel this way. You should think of Santa Claus. You should imagine, the cold, sugary drink flowing past your lips, right? Like that's what marketing does. That's what the propaganda for Coca-Cola does. Now, how often are you exposed to it? Well, not very often. Maybe you see it on a billboard. Maybe you see it on an ad. But overwhelmingly, you don't get bombarded that often. Now, imagine the propaganda that's being pushed by the woke, which is you need to care about seeing a fictional character on the screen that's the same race as you. I mean, that is literally everywhere. So I wouldn't be surprised if there are genuinely people who are like, oh my god, well, yeah, like I saw the Little Mermaid and she's black like me, so I started crying. That's probably due to the social conditioning. If it wasn't important, they wouldn't do it. Like, if the social conditioning just didn't matter, they would not do it. Dragon Ball Z and Yu-Gi-Oh! Has very diverse fan base. Yeah, like all of these things that do not advocate for diversity are very diverse. Jesus fucking Christ, what a loser. Talk about victimhood dialed to 11. It's not even that they're a loser. It's like, the first person, I genuinely don't even believe that they're black. I think they're making everything up, right? Like, they're saying the correct talking points. The other person, the Italian, is trying to fight against the woke ideology, but he is doing it basically by trying to reverse it. But what he doesn't understand is that the reason people have a problem with woke ideology, at least people like myself, and I think like we're the overwhelming majority, is that we completely reject everything that has to do with it. We don't want it reversed. Like, I wouldn't want a woke ideology that puts white people at the top but keeps everything else. Like, you still have diversity officers in companies, it's just that they need to hire white people now. You still have, like, all of the shame and the racial guilt and stuff like that, and the segregation, and like I don't want that. Like, that's not something that I would still fight against it. Right? Because the problem that I have is with the ideology itself. It's not like, oh, well, this ideology makes sense. It's just that I don't like how they made the pyramid. You know, because they put the cisgender heteronormative white man at the bottom, and I don't like that. I want him to be at the top, but everything else is fine with this ideology. Like, everything else makes sense. Like, I'm not like that. And I think, like, most people aren't like that either. Like, most people just want a meritocracy. And if you're right, and you're like, oh, well, you know, like, in a meritocracy, then Asians and white people would do better. They're fine, you know, but like, let the meritocracy happen. Don't enforce it. Anyway. Yeah, merit is pretty much what I would advocate for. And I think, like, everyone benefits from merit. But anyway, right, let me know what you guys think. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the comment section. Take care.